Welcome to the channel. Building overseas doesn't have to be a nightmare. My goal is to help you make that dream a reality. Expect weekly tips on the process of building that dream home and the lifestyle it brings. So check out my videos, subscribe, and share. Thank you. Good afternoon. I hope you are doing very well. Welcome to joining me. Apparently, my audio should be fixed, but let me know if you start acting up again. I'm trying to sort this thing out. But I hope everybody is doing super well. And wherever you are, meet again as usual every Saturday, 12:30 Central, and then 1:30 Eastern, and then what is it, 11:30 Pacific time. Anyway, thank you for joining me today. Just to share a few brief information with you, and I will help you with your project. So let me know, check in, and then let me know if you're good. Thank you, Riku. Thank you for joining me here. So the topic today was, how will you know if your builder, your foreman is up to tax, right? How would you know? Um, because some things you know, some things you may not know. And so the goals for you is how are you going to find out that the money you are paying to the contractor is going to be utilized efficiently, and also you're getting the quality of work and stuff like that. So my goal is to give you some tip today. I'm not going to share everything with you because I don't want it to be too much of a lecture session per se. So some of the things you can look them up, and also you can find out if from right away if your builder or foreman is actually up to par. Right? There's certain things you can see, and this video came about because I have some requests, and also I've been seeing some building on social media that are highly questionable, and no matter what is very cheap in terms of the cost, because you can see structural compromises for multiple stories, and these are just telling me, these people have no idea what they are doing. Okay, and so and I am of the mindset that structure should never be compromised. And so I've seen shallow foundation, wrong beam construction, wrong column construction in terms of design, in terms of size of rebar that was used, quantity of rebars, um, and just all kinds of stuff. It's a mess, right? So one of the things you have to do for yourself. So let me know who is in there. Please check in. One of the things I think would be more encouraging for you to do for yourself is to also check out some civil engineering videos on YouTube, and some of them are really good. And so you can understand the basic foundation, right? So basic stuff. So if somebody's doing your foundation, and you know that you can tell right away things are wrong, and if the foundation is not being done right, it's just kind of like a foresight to what other things that may be coming up, right? And so I'll give you some, some tips that you should look out for. So when you have civil engineering or civil engineers on the site, they are going to look at the design drawings of the beam, the beams, the staircase, the columns, the foundation of sizes, and what should be used, right? Remember, what you see is minimum. So when we say 12 right, diameter for rebars for foundation footings, right? That is the minimum. Okay, that is the minimum. Okay, and they are not the maximum, the minimum. So when we say that it's like foundation depth should be this, that is the minimums, right? When in doubt, go deep into the foundation. When in doubt, use the next size iron rods. When in doubt, okay. So because these are bare minimum. So for the layman's person, there's a ton of unskilled laborers or uneducated builders in Ghana. There's a ton of them, and so one of the things if you're about to start a project, you should keep an eye on is that because sometimes people don't want to pay for the structure or the civil engineers to come in, and so what would happen? And let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if the sound is good. Is that maintain this thing? If it's the basic foundation trenches, right? Basic one should not be less than 3 feet. It should not be less than 3 feet. So, so that means if unskilled laborers and people are working on that, the foundation minimum 3 feet, minimum, okay, minimum. For That's minimum for one story. That's minimum. Now, preferably three and a half for the unskilled labor, okay. Two to 4 stories should not be below 5 feet. Should not be below 5 feet. That is that is what the civil engineers are saying. Should not be below 5 feet. So if you're doing two to three, 4 stories and up, should not be two to four should not be like that. Okay, for the unskilled. And you are doing that to avoid cracks in the foundation, which eventually will go up, right? It start down is going to go up. And so that is what you should look at is your foundation depth, right? If they're giving you this 1.5 foot, 2 feet foundation, and they're giving you all kinds of nonsense excuse and stuff like that, that's a red flag. That's really, you can see my video of the second house. You can see we went deeper and wider on the foundation trenches. Okay. So that's minimum. And so you need to, when you are in Ghana, you need to get yourself one of these. Okay. This is like a construction measuring tape. Okay. You have to understand the size of the beam, the columns, right? Columns are the pillars that's going to support, um, you know, the building itself. And so, and you have to understand. So, and you can listen. You can look this thing up. Ground plus zero. So ground means if you have something like a bungalow, okay, that's 9 by 9 length and width for the columns. Okay, that's minimum. From there it goes up. Okay, if it's one story, G plus one, which is the ground level, a bungalow, another story, because one story means different thing, different part of the world, is 9 by 12 inches width and length for the so when you start looking at videos of people building 3 to 4 stories on 9 by 12 or 9 by 12 or at worst 9 by 9 inches of columns, it's like equivalent of putting a chicken leg on a horse, right? It doesn't really make sense. It's not going to work at a certain point. Structurally is unsafe, right? So when you start seeing that, it's giving red flag because I've seen some of them like that, 2 to 3 levels on the skinny columns, no go, no go area, and all the buildings are not the same. From outside to the untrained eyes, it looks like the same, but it's not. It's not remotely even close. They are not the same. You can go there and look at my column sizes. And when I make a trip this year, I'll actually measure them for you guys so you can see. And there's a reason why, we do that. So that's a few red flag. You can just look at the columns. Rather, we can see the foundation depth, and you can see that these people are not up to par. You can just look at the columns. You can measure them and know that's not up to par. Another way to check is to make sure that okay, are they using the right size of the rebars, right? And then the quantity, right? And the quantity as well. Okay, because it does matters a lot. Okay, so if they're using the wrong size and the quantity, and also the arrangement of it, that's another red flag. Another thing too is so most of the time you can see people on YouTube. I spend a lot of time on YouTube per se. So that will speak well, they talk well, looks like making a lot of sense. But then once you look behind them, what actually they have done, you can see that the execution was a little bit poorly, right? So you will see things in which you have the beam, whether it's a hidden or exposed beam, that connects to the column on the ground at a 90-degree angle. You can see um, that maybe the construction was fine, but then when we were doing the framework, the board work to pour the concrete, and maybe the mixer ratio was off, too much water or whatever had happened, and so at the right 90-degree angle, you can see that you can see rebar still exposed, and so that is a no-no. You don't come to our construction site and we do casting and you see rebar exposed. Um, and so the framework, the person that does that, the framework, the boarding stuff must be really, really good at that. And also too, so you have that, and then what end up happening is they'll add some mortar and then plaster it over there to hide it. So that's not good either. Okay. So the stuff that you have to really, really educate yourself on to see it, right? To see it and ask questions, ask questions. Make sure that even the iron rods, don't use the one that rusty. It's not good for your foundation work and stuff. So pay close attention to a lot of these things. The right size, are they using a high tensile strength or mild steel? Very, very important. Okay. Let me know if you have any questions. So I can hear you. We can throw it in there. So another thing too you must understand too is I know sometimes too, like, people will pose questions, and it's not like I'm ignoring this question. Sometimes they'll be like, how many um rebars or iron rods did you use? Right? It's to me, I always exceed the minimums to some capacity, and also too, my design is a little bit different. It may look like regular stuff, but I'm very particular in certain things. So I do pay a little bit more, or I do go sometimes to the next level of diameter of the stuff like that to use. So that is not for everybody, and maybe sometimes I do certain things that might not be even necessary and stuff. So it's very, very tricky. So you're not building the same house, so it's very, very tricky. The same thing with the cement ratio that I use. I use a little bit high and stuff like that. So one thing we must also know too is um, there's various cement for everything, right? So depend on the grade, okay? The cement for foundation, the cement for like pavement, garage, pathways, it's like the floors, and so there's different grade, and so sometimes I've seen this before. The laborer will be using the same cement, and they're not reading even on the ratio. So make sure that they are following the ratio, which on the cement bags is actually there for cement to sand to aggregate. Okay, make sure they are following that, because not every cement has its different ratio. Okay, they're not the same, right? So if you are using something like M15, it's going to be a different ratio, 1 to 2 to 4, compared to M20, 1 to 1.5 to 3, right? So there's a different kind of ratios that must be followed, and make sure it's being mixed well and all that kinds of stuff, right? So it's very, very important. So you have to really educate yourself in this aspect. Okay. Hi, Miss Carly. Thank you. It's been a long time. Welcome back. Okay. So you have to make sure that you are educating yourself in this aspect so you can see things right away and then ask questions. And they shouldn't be defensive when you're asking questions. So get your construction tape measure, go on site, start. You can look up what it should be based on the number of stories you are building. You should be able to know that. Listen, my columns are really, really small. It's off, and that is a red flag, right? And so when in that, listen, they are minimum standard. The codes that they give you are minimums, right? They are minimums. So when in that, exceed them. So the foundation trenches, exceed them. Make sure they're using when they do the mesh for the foundation footing, they are using the right one, whether it's 10 mm or whatever. It's like they're using the right one. So you have to know these things, because they might not know these things. Okay, they might not. And also to use a lot of your common sense, right? It does work when you see certain buildings, and you should be looking at it, everything, right? You should look at the foundation, you should look at the column size, and look at it. So, okay, this massive house, and look at this 9 by 9 inches of column size. Does that really even make sense? And chances are um, it doesn't. So not all the building construction are the same. So as you watch videos, pay attention to these things, right? Pay attention to these things. And then you can use mine as a comparison. Look at mine, go back to my foundation, see the depth, see the width, see how we set up everything, the number of iron rods we're using, and see our column sizes, see our beams, and all those things is really, 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 really important, right? Really important. So let me see. Good question, right? So how do you know the road seller, right? I use high tensor. So they very, very good question. They might tell you something. And this is where sometimes your steel benders and those guys come in, and your builder knows that these are legitimate. Usually, the mild steel sometimes can be undersized, right? Um, the high tensors, well, actually, if it's 12 mm, or is this actually 12 mm, but also the steel benders can help you. So why ideally, it's like we have to do like a methodology test, or whatever they use the word for, to test to see the ingredient, the concentration level of the steel, to match it with some result to say that this is okay, high tensile versus mild steel and stuff like that. We all don't have access to that. Yes, they might show you some certificate, but you know how it is over there, right? So your builder should be able to help you, so that and also your steel builder should help you to tell you that, hey, this is because the fake ones are getting really good as well, and they do have that. So it's about, if you don't have somebody who's advocating for you, becomes really problematic, right? And so um if you have any questions, here's my website. You can reach out to me. We do real estate in Ghana. We do some land stuff. We educate you how to do the process, how to buy land, how to make sure your investment is secure, do searches for you, come back, and we tell you go, not go, and that kinds of stuff. How to build your construction really, really well. How to start the process. Our foundations are a little bit expensive compared to the regular people, because we do a lot of things most people are not doing. They are cutting corners, they are, um, and stuff like that. So we do it right. If you contact us to do some shitty stuff for you, we will not take that job. We don't believe in that. So we would rather do it right for you. And then we guarantee the work that we do, right? And so we do it right. We do it exactly how I would do mine, stuff like that. So we don't cut corners. We want that house to last, 200 years or more. So we are going to take care of it. And even when we do foundation, we also factor in base. We're not just going on based on the drawings. We're also looking on the soil composition and making some decisions to always increase, not decrease, right? So we will, if it's 3 feet and we feel that we have to go 4 feet, we will, fortunately for the guys, they'll have to go a little bit deeper and dig those trenches. Okay, we will do that. Um, all right, let me give a few shout out to Amo. Thank you. Van Dyke, welcome back, Miss Callie. Glad everything is going well. Ima, thank you. Leslie, thanks. So, so is so based of my understanding, there's nothing really. There's no one cement that is universal, because it will be actually be tough. I mean, I guess you can go the high grade, like specialized cement for a lot of things, but the regular. So remember, we have the residential and the commercial, right? So the commercial grade of cement are different, very different than the residential type of stuff like that. The commercial ones actually tend to be much, 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 much stronger, especially the ones they're going to use on some highways. Yes, they do use some concrete some cement for highways. Those because of the heavy usage of vehicles and transport systems stuff like that. So that falls in a whole different category. But usually it's like some of the cement can do a lot of the stuff, but then there's other areas that you need different grade of cement because they work very, very well. The strength, I believe, I measured after 28 days of curing time. So I will stay away for, and you know this. If one thing works for all, it's probably inefficient for all, right? So it's good. It's better that you talk to your foreman or your builder who can actually tell you, hey, what grade do we need? And it's also the best thing is that you actually do the research and figure the grade that you need and ask your foreman to see maybe if they know, because they might not know, right? If you need to use M25 and they're telling you 15 will do, that's a problem, right? So you must know these things. These things are things that you can just uh look up and maintain that ratio. When in doubt, add a little bit more cement. When in doubt, don't reduce it, right? Cement is very, very important. Is the thing that holds everything together, right? And so it's really, really important. So when in doubt, just do that, okay? And follow that. So make sure your person knows what they are doing. And foundation, the things I've seen mostly on YouTube: foundation problem, bad column design, bad beam design, bad staircase designs. Um, sometimes too, you have a situation that the column is leaning. That's a no-no, right? And so you want when you do you set up your footings and everything, those and where you measure them from center to center, right? To get the required width and length is very, very important. The arrangement of your iron rods are very, very important. The spacing has to be 6 inches spacing between each tie. They call it tie around it. Okay, and so all this is important. So when you do your board work, you want to make sure that column is straight as possible. You want to make sure the board retains the mortar water. You don't want the water to escape, right? So you want everything. So that means your carpenter must be really, really dope in constructing, making sure everything you put in the column stays with it to cure and all that. So it's very, very important. And so, because if you have a situation that your columns is leaning maybe 10 degrees, think about it. It's equivalent of carrying something on your head and uh, leaning slightly. You will find that it's very, very difficult to keep it over your head, even if it's a lighter load, right? So you want everything to be sound, straight, right? So it is important you pay attention to this, right? So if you're doing 2 to 3 stories, if you're civil engineers, probably the depth of footing stuff they're doing is they're gonna keep it between 4 to 5 feet. They're gonna keep it over there. But if you are using people who don't have that, then you probably want them to do more because they're not factoring beam load and structural load and all kinds of stuff. So you want them to do more. All right, does that make sense? Um, Kimi, thank you. Um, the Queen still alive? Yes, I agree. I agree. I think you can look up some of these things. It's a big investment, so take time. Don't be afraid. There's a after this video, I'm gonna put a link over there to one civil engineer that I watch. I've learned a lot from there, and they are good. Their videos are less than 10 minutes, and so it's just straight to the point. So and they give you the dimensions, so you can be double checking these things. Because trust me, after sometimes people build your house, it's very, very difficult to get hold of them. So you want to make sure that it's done right. Building from the beginning to when you finish is going to involve a lot of good decisions along the way. So it is very, very important that these decisions are being made. And when you see things, you correct it. And maybe, listen, your foreman, your builder might be a nice guy, but maybe they're not cut out for it, right? And so you have to advocate for yourself. You really have to. You have to be on the ground if you can and measure things and stuff like that and ask questions. Ask questions that you know the answer, right? Ask questions that you already know the answers to make sure that things are done right, because I'm seeing a lot of bad construction going on, and it's amazing, right? It's amazing. And it doesn't help. And it looks like it's all the same. It looks like just blocks and rebars and cement. No, it's not. It's the difference is huge. This huge, and so to the extent that is very concerned, because I think people are rushing to get things done. In doing that, making a lot of structural mistakes, and stuff like that. So I don't want you to get yourself, you on your own timeline. You're not building. You're not competing with anybody's. But get it done right. Right. Is there a certain company that is known for having support? Are you trying to start a YouTube beef, right? There are some. Another thing, and like I said, I gave you all the tips to figure it out, right? To figure it out. It's not sometimes it's not just companies. You also have individual. Not most of the people that are building Ghana do not have companies. They are solo and they have some, some crew, some workers and stuff like that. Maybe they have been building 5 years, 10 years, whatever, and they might not have the certification, but leave the engineering stuff to the engineers. Yes, pay them and let them come and let them make sure everything is right. But you yourself, you too can. The idea that I'll give a project to somebody and I go to sleep, that is not in my nature. I like to be seeing what is going on. So, granted, my guys are good. I still, when you see me on site in my early videos, you see me with, you know, construction tape measure, and I'm measuring stuff. And I'm doing that for a reason, to make sure that everything is good. And so if I see something, then we have a discussion and we correct it, right? So you have to do that. And so it's very, very important. So, and I'm doing that because I already know what the answers should be, because I've done the homework. So if it's off, I can ask, okay, so why are we using this like that? And sometimes there'll be a good decision to say, okay, because we did this one here, okay, we can take that whole load with the way we are constructing this, okay, and stuff like that. So because if I say this company is good, this company is bad, then you just gonna go to you're gonna absorb yourself from that responsibility. So it doesn't matter who it is, even if you're working with us, they do the same thing. Okay, does that make sense? So another thing to assess right away if your contractor is not up to par, right? Okay, your contractor has to be very professional, right? Very professional. And if you are, and also too, if he's taking, if it's very difficult you know getting access to them, right? You have to really think about it. Another red flag is if they are the cheapest option, right? Because significant low bills, are signs of depression, desperation, right? And inexperience, because they want that job. And then so they will, undercut, you know, everybody, so they can get a job. But like me, we are reasonable, but some price we just can't do it. So we will walk. Some people will take that job, and then you are going to be facing all this kind of problems. Okay. And so these are one of the things that you have to and stuff like that, because the right contractor can make or break the project for you. So it is very, very important that you find the right team and stuff. Okay, we are one of them. We can help you or navigate around some of this stuff. So pay attention to foundation. If you start your work, pay attention to foundation, the depth of the foundation, the width of the foundation. Okay, I already give you what it should look like in the beginning of the video. Okay, pay attention to the type of iron rods that are used, the size, the quantity, right? The spacing between each tie when you ground around it, right? Pay attention to that. Pay attention to overall size of the columns when it's done. Pay based on the recommendation by civil engineers for the number of story buildings. Right, I already gave you that aspect. That's easy to look up those numbers. Right. Pay attention to the so the reinforcement will be okay. The structure designing, what is being the minimum. So some when we say 12 mm, that's the minimum. Okay, that is not the maximum. That is the minimum to use. Okay, and so when you use columns that are round, you usually use a little bit more steel rebars than when you do a rectangular one. Okay, and so and then how much should the concrete cover around the steels? That is very very important as well. Okay, the framework when you do the columns, the board that they put around the columns are very very important. Make sure it's done well, that water is not leaking out, stuff like that. And then a concrete ratio, right? So maintain the ratio based on the cement, the type of cement they are using. So that ratio must be done well, mixed well, executed well, right? To make sure that there's not too much water in there and stuff like that. So all these things are very, very important, right? So the next time you see all these buildings that they are not the same, pay close attention. The building is not the same. It's not the same. Okay, some of them are okay. Some of them was not done. A lot of them are not done well, and some of them are really done well. And I can tell you, and I'll repeat this again: in our part of the world, to get a good job done well, it will cost you a little bit. If it comes cheap, it's not done well. And I've seen some of them, and I said, no wonder why these codes are like this, because look at what it is, right? And so it's very very important. It's really 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 important that we do that. Okay. Hope hopefully this audio brain is fixed. Yes, yes, I got it. So I think also too, you have to look at it, how intricate is the design, right? I know most of the time they will anchor them into the wall somehow, right? Um, Another thing too is like with POP is, sometimes people do the POP sooner and sometimes they do later. What do I mean by that? POP is a messy job, right? It's really a messy job, gets everywhere. The mortar, when it sticks to wood, is very, very difficult to remove without damaging the wood. And so that is why we offer our construction guide. Because think about this: how many times have you watched video and you see POP, and unfortunately, it's on there's nice door that they paid for. The POP is everywhere. The POP is in the glass railings, is on the glass windows. POP is like and stuff like that. So those things all are decisions, that is important, because the more if you install these internal doors and you do your POP and it gets on them, you for you to remove it is going to be very difficult without actually staining or messing with the finishing of the door. So it's very important. But depending on the design, the POP specialist guys who can help you with that aspect too. And also too, I also think to like do a POP to that remaining style for many, many years, as well, because it can be changed down the road, but you probably have to move everything out of the house again and stuff like that. So think about it that way as well. And then make sure it's painted, when they start painting the house, make sure they do the POP ceiling first. They do first before you start painting the walls. Okay, so there's a specialized POP paint that they use. So just make sure they use that. So but those guys are very good. They can come up with elaborate designs, um, stuff like that. Now another thing. So the second part of the question is how not to compound your stress in the building process and money, right? So here's the thing. Um, Rule number one, you don't know everything, right? And rule number two, remember rule number one, you don't know everything. You cannot quite possibly know everything. If you know rule number three, if you know more than everybody on your site, then maybe you are working with the wrong team. You should have people on site that know a lot more in certain areas that they can bring value. Now, there's a tendency for some of us, especially from the West, that we present ourselves as know it all when we are we're dealing with these projects. And so when you start doing that, they might have some ideas, but then they feel intimidated, the workers, depending on how they are, to share them with you, right? And stuff because you feel like you're paying them, so they have to listen to you. So if that is the attitude, then even when you give bad ideas, they will try to because you will give bad ideas. And I don't care who you are or you've not done this before. This is the beginning. You are going to make mistakes. And so when you have bad ideas, they will execute those bad ideas because they can't say anything. The rule I use for me is like when you're on the site, you can say anything you want. If there's something going wrong, you speak up. So everybody speaks up. So if I'm telling them to do something and then the midstream guys come and say, maybe we're thinking this like that, I factor that in as well. You want that. You can't see everything, you can't know everything. So so it is very, very important. Other than that, you are going to make a ton of mistakes and then you're gonna go back and start doing correcting stuff that should have been done earlier, right? So there's a little bit of humbleness in the process with regards to how you treat the people that work for you, and so they can give you their best, and they will give you their best if you know how to work with them. So it's very, very important. So if my tech guys, my engineers are speaking to me, I'm paying attention and we're having a discussion. But when in doubt, um, if there's a conflict of what I want and what they are saying, they will overrule. I would go with what they are saying, and stuff like that. After providing my feedback, and it's not going to a way to work around it, then we roll with that. So you want that in your building aspect. So when I'm dealing with my electrician, who's very good, certifies down major projects and stuff like that. So I care to know what he thinks and stuff like that. And so it's very, very important. Other than that, you are going to make mistakes, a ton of mistakes, and it's going to set you back. And so take your time, be humble. You don't know everything you learn. I learned a lot from the first project. I'm still learning a lot from this project. And so you will learn a lot if you allow yourself to. Um, and I know there's a tendency for everybody to say, you know what, I don't have to check in, I don't have to talk to anybody. I can do it because he did it. I can do it. Well, listen, we are confident in what we know and what we've done, but we're still humble in the sense that we cannot know everything. Sometimes somebody looking at it from a different angle can help you. Other than that, if you come across like you, especially if it's your first gig, you're gonna be humble. It will come at a cost to you because I see all the mistakes all the time when I watch those videos. I see them, but I don't have a rule. I will not come to your channel and make a negative comment, and I'm not going to speak on anything unless the question is asked, you know, asked from me. Then I'll give my input. Other than that, I watch some things and I'm like, it's not going to work well, and lo and behold, it happens. So people humble, be smart, be savvy. The result is what? Get things done. So learn from who you need to learn from, and then get information. And then if it's a service, listen, I pay for services all the time because I want to produce a masterpiece. I want something unique. The block work might look like the same and whatever, but it's not. It really is not. But when it's all done, it's going to be unique. I'm trying to create something that is first, and so that means that I'm willing to make That not like everything else. Okay. All right. So well, so you could, but then so the reason why people do maybe perimeter walls, basically it makes it easier to run the cables to the back for the secondary component of the AC. But technically, the positioning of the AC, you have to factor a lot of things. You have to understand airflow. You have to, because sometimes I've gone to some homes that there's AC over there, but it's not positioned correctly. So you don't even enjoy the benefit of what it's meant to do. So ideally, you want to cover the most room, and also you want to repositioning several ACs that whether they're facing each other certain directions, and you're getting the maximum. So that is what is going to determine how the AC should be positioning, right? Is to be able to cover the maximum space and that kinds of stuff. So that is what not necessarily has to do with interior walls or perimeter walls per se. It's just like positioning and stuff like that. Because the situations that people have AC in their bedrooms and the AC is like right on top of them, and it's just they're trying to sleep and the AC is just blowing right in your face, and so that is not the best way to install them. So that is the most important thing. So that is how you make the decision based on where it should be, whether it should be on this wall and that wall and that kinds of stuff. Okay, I hope that. Question is, how many can afford professional engineer? If you do not want to have at least engineer on the site, I don't think you should build. Right? I don't think you should build. So maybe then the building is not for everybody. But is that critical to have a civil engineer or structural engineer over there? Because we're talking about structure now. We're not talking about plastering or stuff. We're talking about structure. So especially when you start doing two, three, four levels and that kinds of stuff, you can get away with a bungalow style kind of stuff. But if you start doing one story, two story, three story and up, you need a structural engineer to be there because your builder might not know. So pay him. And I don't care how much he's asking for. Pay him. If that means he pushes your project back 1 year, that's fine. I think it's worth it that way. That they come over there to make sure things are done correctly. Correctly. You wouldn't. It's like if you're bidding a plane and you don't have engineers in there, I wouldn't fly that plane, even if they say free ticket, right? So there's certain things that you cannot exclude, and then there's certain things that you can exclude. So I will push that there should be some engineer. Now, if your builder is very, very good, it's very, very good, and they understand this stuff, then they can take the structural designs and construct that. But sometimes they're not, right? They're not. And so even with us, we are good, but we still have one or two in there and run ideas because I have a tendency to sometimes, run things, have like a 15, meters of beam across, no internal columns or pillars to support anything. So we have to do the calculations. And so that means it's going to cost me more money for, designing that hidden beam and that kinds of stuff. So you need that. You need that in there, especially for certain type of build, right? You need that. So I would say checking because there's a lot of people building with that the technical know-how, right? And so that becomes really, really important. So it's kind of like work with them at least, have them come and supervise the foundation work. They might come there two or three times. That's it. So just pay them. I don't think they're gonna take the whole money, but I think it's very, very important because I could watch videos and I could tell you that if there's a competent structure engineer there, this nonsense is not going to be done. I can see it, and so we are pushing for that to that's a standard, and also I am pushing the builders in Ghana to elevate their technical know-how a little bit, instead of, people think like they can build, 20-year style of building, and that kinds of stuff, right? So it's very, very important. So they are worth paying the money to. All right, you're welcome. Yes, yes, yes. It's important. Yeah, you have to. You know, plasterboard POP, which is better long lasting. So plasterboard, some will say plasterboard is POP with designs, right? Um, I think too is kind of like, I look at the design aspect, um based on the architectural style of the home. Mediterraneans tend to have a lot of elaborate, like, so I'm doing modern contemporary, so my POP is going to be very, very simple, nothing elaborate. I don't want anything elaborate. Clean lines, and so I can maintain that look of the modern contemporary look. And so that to me is important. So it's not necessarily, yes, some POP might be intricate, and over time maybe you might see some little bit cracking in there based on the design, the separation, because things moved around, houses they move a little bit, and so you can find it in there. And so, or maybe sometimes the trust drop a little bit, because when we do consultation, we tell you when you're doing POP, there's certain things you need to do with your wooden trust, so you don't experience any separation and cracks within stuff like that. So that could happen. So it's preference, even plasterboard also can have cracks if they join them together over time, because you're not gonna have a plasterboard that covers the entire ceiling. Okay, so it's just a personal preference. Some will say even a plasterboard and POP are the same, as well. Okay, all right. Not to keep it too long, we got maybe 1, 2 to 3 minutes, and then we'll wrap it. Thank you every day for taking the time here. So rewatch the video in the beginning. I share some tips that you can look at, and then help your build, and keep an eye on your project, because it's hard making this money, right? And so we want to make sure that our money is being used properly. Um, is and that kinds of stuff. And okay, so you might say, fireproof isn't fireproof. Okay. And so speaking of fireproof, what do we say? Is anything really fireproof, right? And so, given it time, even steel will burn over time, right? And so, but speaking of fireproof, make sure you have your fire extinguishers and all those things, and good electrical wiring and all that stuff all matters. Escape, how to get out of your house, your motion, not motion, the carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide combo detectors and all those things. And then make sure that your neighbor is not burning um his trash next to your fence wall, and that kinds of stuff. And so yep. All right. Okay. Other than that, thank you. I appreciate you guys taking the time to join me. Have a great weekend. Wish you the best as you continue your project or thinking about doing your project. Remember, it only gets expensive over time. It doesn't get cheaper. And so at a certain point, you really have to get this thing going. There's never a right moment to build, and building is more of a mind and heart thing than a money thing. Okay, so make that decision, and then let us know, where we can help you. Reach out to us with questions on our website. Consult with us before you start. I think is important, so you can make good sound decisions right away. Um, and is Because we've learned a few things now, and there's new technology and all kinds of stuff. And so get that information, and then just go do better. Okay. Yes, 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 yes. We're gonna make it happen. I'm looking forward to that to celebrate a little bit of success, hard work. I know what you take, so keep making it work, and not easy, but it can be done. Um, all right, I'll post this thing, then I leave. All right, you guys can talk after. Anyway, thank you. Have a great weekend, and I wish you the most success going forward. Thank you. All right.